Good morning, welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View this morning. Fine Sunday morning, it's a little bit overcast. Celtic do have a game today. This is my predicted starting 11. This is just a prediction. I hope that Brendan Rodgers does take the well, he will, won't he? When we look at the game that's coming up midweek, it's now the time for Brendan Rodgers and the management staff to... There's no time left, basically. There's no time left at all. Brendan Rodgers cannot use excuses now for the team not being together. He cannot use excuses for anything. We need to start performing, and we need to start performing at a high level. There's a number of games coming up over the couple of weeks that could define our season. Starting today, we need to win in the Premier Sports Cup to continue the fine run that we've had in competitions, apart from the final in May. But we need to find a different level. We need to get better than we were in May. That's a definite. When you look at the games that are coming up, obviously you've got Partick Thistle today as a must-win game. We then travel for the first game in the Europa, and that's not going to be an easy game. And then we come back to Glasgow for the end of the month game, back to Celtic Park, full house at Celtic Park, full house for the Hibernian game is completely sold out, so there's no boycott of tickets or anything like that, but it's against Hibernian. Although Hibernian got beat yesterday in the cup, they are sitting quite comfortable in the league, and they will want to continue that. So there's three really important games, and then when you go into October, we start again with Braga at Celtic Park, Motherwell, Dundee, Sturm Graz, Hearts, and then we end up at the end of October with Falkirk at Celtic Park. There's no time for excuses. Brendan Rodgers and the team need to get the fast attacking football started. They need to get back to the levels that we expect Celtic to be playing at. The time for excuses is done. You know, the transfer window is closed. That's left behind. It's over with. No matter what the fans think about the transfer window, it's time for Brendan Rodgers and the team, the players, to up their game. Tell me what you think in the comment section. Tell me what you think the scoreline will be today. There's a lot of talk about the upcoming AGM. You know, today we just need to focus on Partick Thistle, and there's players that need game time, and it'll be interesting to see how close to that team that I've put up on the screen that Brendan Rodgers picks. I mean, I think Sinisalo, we can all agree, more than deserves his chance in goal. Donovan, he's found himself there by default. Carter Vickers and Scales, there's no one to replace them at Celtic just now. There's no one that you can think, yeah, let's just take that risk and bring in a couple of players. Because if we lose it at the back, and if we lose goals, we've been quite tight at the back so far. There's no one to really take. I mean, you want Dane Murray to maybe come in, but you also want Scales and Carter Vickers to start getting a real good relationship that is solid. You know, that is completely solid, and you're thinking, right, that's our back two. And then you're going to have Marcello, and that's your back line. Arne Engels, McGregor, McCowan is my favourite for the midfield today. McGregor's not going to get dropped. I'd like to see him get dropped, but the importance of the game, the importance of getting to Hampden, when you see the teams that got through already, it's, you know, there's no easy games between now and the final. So McGregor will stay on. Whether people will say, oh, McGregor's missing in the midfield sometimes. Mark says, yeah, couldn't agree more, Baz. It's a tough few months for the players to get paid enough to prove themselves. It's down to business time, do you know? And we talk about the end of the season being the business end of the season. Unfortunately, at Celtic, this is the business end of the season. This is when we've got to get all the good results. This is when we've got to prove that if we want to be a Champions League level team, these players need to prove that they're, you know. And Brendan Rodgers, This is a massive, don't get me wrong. I mean, Brendan Rodgers has a lot to prove to the Celtic fans that he can still be a success in Europe. There's no excuses going into the Europa League. I mean, you've had Paul Lambert coming out and saying that, look, with all the nonsense that's been going on about the manager, with the mole releasing stuff about Brendan Rodgers, it's criminal, said Paul Lambert. But, you know, we've dropped down into the Europa before, and you've got to say the team that Martin O'Neill had with Paul Lambert as captain was far superior to this current team. I mean, how many players? Here's a good one for you this morning in the comment section. Tell me how many players from this current team would get into Martin O'Neill's team of 2003. There's a good one for you this morning. Monty says it's from a crisp and sunny St Andrews. The Seth Conans were running about like they'd won league. I reckon we get 4 with a clean sheet. Yeah, I think so. Chilpill's also scunnered with Calmac right now. Finally, a proper Glasgow derby. Yep, we should definitely win this game, but Partick will be up for it. Yep, Big Des is going for 3-0. Sinisalo must start for sure. I think so. I think that he should be given, if you want him to go into next season on a high, we need Sinisalo to get the cup runs. And even if we do get to the final, do not bring in Casper bloody Schmeichel for the final. If Sinisalo is going to get the cup games, he needs to get it all the way to the final. And it's no disrespect to Casper. He's a fine goalkeeper. But I think it's games like this. Alistair Johnson over Jackie McNamara. That's an interesting one. Yeah, you're maybe right there. Yeah, you're maybe right. Although the two of them were quite similar. Do you know, Jackie McNamara liked to put his boot in as well. Jackie McNamara had a bit of dig about him. That's a hard one, that one. There's gaps all over the squad, but his right side isn't strong enough, midfield isn't quick enough, or tough enough to play top teams. Opener left and front can show more and create goals. Oof. That is a cracker comment this Sunday morning. JGB says, spot on Baz, the players need to step up on the field, and let's at least get to the last 8 of the Europa. He's going for 3-0. Can we realistically, with the squad not being as powerful as an attacking force as it has been in the past, is it too early? Brendan Rodgers, I can see the excuse that Brendan Rodgers will use already. Brendan Rodgers will say, look, we've not had the time for this team to gel. I wanted the players in early. He'll start, and I hope he doesn't, but he'll talk about the importance of getting players in early in the transfer window. So when you reach this stage, there's a fluidity about the team. You know, there's a fluidity about the way that the team plays. There's a fluidity about the way that the team goes forwards and defends together. But we'll wait and see. Our two keepers, that's it. Jackie first pick for me. Jackie all day long. Schmeichel instead of Marshall. We need to get together now and make it a crack at winning the Europa. Can we realistically? I mean, I think if it was the team from last year, Mo, I think that we would be going into this Europa confident. You know, if we had all the players that we had at the beginning of last season, I think that unless Brendan Rodgers really works his magic on the training pitch, not keen on Rio and Benji in our midfield. Now let's hope that they're not playing today, because I think that Brendan Rodgers will mix it up. I mean, Rio Hatate, let's be honest, is a fantastic player he is. He would not get near... Marshall wasn't a Martin O'Neill keeper though. No, he wasn't that. We're a Europa level team. But have we dropped down? I think there's a lot of people would be looking at the squad and thinking, do you know, is it as strong as it has been over the last couple of years? I think if we had dropped down into the Europa, I think if it was the old format and we dropped down into the Europa last year, I think that we could have had given a good account of ourselves. But with that no longer an option, we've obviously went into the Europa at this stage. First game away from home could be really, really... I mean, is it the be-all and end-all if we don't get the result? I mean, the media in Scotland will say, there's Celtic again, can't win away from home. We won't get the European final, not a chance, says Peter King. I don't think so. I don't think that this squad of players... It depends who Brendan Rodgers is allowed to bring in the next window. That will determine how far that we can get in Europe. That's my honest thinking. I think if this squad, the current squad and its current... I mean, I'm still not convinced that Brendan Rodgers is happy with the striking department, even though that we have an abundance of strikers. I mean, we're blessed with strikers, but let's face it, the strikers that we have are not of the quality that we might have had previously. I mean, when you look at it, I mean, Dyson, although he scored 30 goals last year, he's not a Kyogo. Do you know, he likes to hit on the attack. You've got Johnny Kenny coming through the system. Callum Osmond, who's a B-team backup player at most. Shin Yamada, we've still not seen the magic that he could supposedly produce. And then Kelechi is a player that hopefully can score goals for us. But it doesn't give you that... There's not one of these players that you're thinking... Yeah, I mean, Lee Griffiths would score more than all these players put together. That's just my opinion. I think Lee Griffiths was more potent as a striker. I mean, Johnny Kenny, young player coming through the system, has got years to go yet. Callum Osmond, I still don't... He was obviously taken from the Fulham Academy and given the promise of going into first team and getting first team training. I don't see where he fits into... And who do you drop? Who do you drop to put Callum Osmond to give him game time? Maybe this is the game where Callum Osmond's on the bench. Maybe we'll have two strikers on the bench. And then when you look at the fact that we've still got Yang at Celtic, it doesn't fill me with... I don't know. Let's hope that the team can grow into the competition, because there's a lot of question marks over Mikel Ange after his performance in his first game. There's a lot of Celtic fans not convinced by the player, and the only one that seems to have a bit of pass marks in the forward line just now is Sebastian. And let's hope by the time that we get Jota back, you know, it gets us a bit better. Alistair Johnston is ahead of schedule as well, and let's just hope that we can get him back for the Europa League phase, because that's the only hope that we've got. It's the only hope that we do have going forward. 77 million in the bank. Add that to the Maida fee when he goes. How much of all that goes to the taxman shambles? The 77 million in the bank is after taxation. The taxation, if you look at it, Rodgers missed his so-called KPI with 9-man striker on the bench. We don't have Adam either now, so there's no use talking about it. What's happened to Johnny Kenny? The thing is you can only play one striker off the bench. There's no use putting two strikers on the bench, because if you put two strikers on the bench, you're a player down somewhere else in the field. And I've said this before, until we change system, until we change formation, you're always going to have just one player, one striker on the bench. Keith Robertson says he's not worried, he's not bothered about the Europa Cup, the League of the Scottish Cup. I'm praying to win the league. I think that we'll win the league. Yeah. Well, we win. Yeah, I'm convinced we'll win the league. I'm not convinced that Brendan Rodgers will get much in January. I think that the board cannot afford to not back Brendan Rodgers in the January window, especially after the way that we folded towards the end of the season. Now, it's now apparent that Brendan Rodgers knew that Dyson Maeda wanted away towards the end of last season. And when you look at Dyson Maeda's form towards the end of the season, it wasn't as prolific. I think that the board will have taken heed. And if you noticed all the love bombs that are getting dropped by Celtic, putting out videos of every goal by Henrik Larsson, putting out videos of this and videos of this, happy birthday Henrik, and all this nonsense. I think that the Celtic board will go out its way, maybe go overboard on what they would want to really, really do with Brendan Rodgers in this last window. I think that the boards will maybe just go, do you know what, we need to make sure that we're seen to be backing the manager as much as we can so that we can potentially win the treble. Because if we don't, this Celtic fans collective thing will only gather pace even more. And they will want to try and nip this in the bud before the next transfer window. They will want to try and be seen to be appeasing the fans as much as possible. And I think that when the time that they get to the January window, I think that you'll see a little bit of over-enthusiasm by the board to back him. Rodgers has just winding down his final year, saving his reputation and the board's expense. Masterclass. It was strikingly obvious that Dyson wanted to leave, yeah. And now that we look back at it, and then Brendan Rodgers, I think that do you know the thing that really gets to me is when Brendan Rodgers come out and says, when Kyogo left, we've known since January that Kyogo wanted to leave. We knew months ago. And then when it came about Dyson, yeah, we knew Dyson's position back in February. And you're thinking, if you know that position, do you know why not act on it? But anyway, it's all in the past. Did Dyson get a wage rise? I don't think so. He's got his contract, and that's it. Rodgers had no intention of staying beyond 3 years, says Mo. But let's not get too negative about the manager. I mean, as long as he stays, he's going to be here at the end of the season, and then whatever happens after that happens. By my calculations, we have between 15 and 20 million to spend in January to avoid breach. Yeah, maybe spend more if Maeda goes. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if we went out and spent big in the next window and early on. Watch the ability of the Celtic board to get deals done really, really early in the next window. And everyone will be going, well, why the hell? And I just think that there is a game getting played out in the background at Celtic just now, especially with Brendan Rodgers being made to be the go-between between the fans and the board. Rodgers won't get a lot of players in January. He's leaving at the end of the season, so the manager will need money to spend. Dyson would get a rise. I don't see why Dyson would get a rise. There was no official bid came in for him, but anyway, the board could have done was given Dyson a rise after shafting him. Yeah, this is true. If a bid came in for him, he would have gone. That's how clubs work. So give it a rest. Yeah, exactly. Big grab. The transfer window is done and dusted now. I think that the team and the players, the manager, need to be seen to be up in their level. Two players are urgent bars, right wing and a striker. Yeah. The Bobo Glint manager. God, is that not going down the Ronnie Dyler road again though? Mo, is that not going? and I mean this with the greatest respect to Ronnie, because I thought that he was a decent manager that, went through a period of managed decline. Wouldn't that be seen to be going down the Ronnie Dyler road again for Celtic fans? And I think that, he does fantastically well with a low budget. But anyway, we'll wait and see. The squad hasn't been settled since the start of the season. I think in the next 3 or 4 weeks, we'll see a big difference in our play. Hopefully, I've just been bitten by a fucking mosquito. Where the fuck is that? Motherfucker. Hopefully. Jose. Nah, there's no way we're getting Jose. Anyway, I will be on an hour and a half before. On another note, do you think Pusey will get a run out today? He's turning into a bit of a ghost. Nah, I think Brendan Rodgers thinks that he's a couple of weeks away yet from... I need to go and put Q on that bite. I think that he is a player that Brendan Rodgers thinks is a couple of weeks away from being up to pace for Scottish football. How do you assess McGregor's start to the season? Do you think that this summer... I've said for a long time, I don't think that there's no one within the squad that is a replacement for Callum McGregor as it stands. There's no one good enough. There's not ever since we lost Scott Brown and that holding midfield player, the quality is coming down and down. Callum's a great player. He's a good player, but he's coming towards the end of his career. And any player that's come towards the end of their career isn't as mobile, isn't as agile, doesn't have the pace that they once had. But what Callum does bring is, and people don't like it, but he reads the game. And he reads the game and he helps the manager on the pitch with that sense. He does bring a lot to the game. A lot of people don't like the fact that he's standing, pointing about and trying to get people moving into positions. But that's what a holding midfield player should be doing. That's the way that a holding midfield captain should be. Neil Lennon wasn't the fastest in midfield. Neil Lennon was like he was pulling a train half the time. But he could read the game. With no one at Celtic right now that can boss that midfield. Chilpel saying Bernardo. I don't even think that Bernardo's got that edge about him that the likes of Scott Brown had. I think that we seriously need to go in and we need to find another holding midfield player from wherever, because there's no one at Celtic right now. When you look at the players in the midfield that have the potential to take Callum's position, right? You've got Luke McCowan. He's not top level stuff. He's not Scott Brown class. You've got Arne Engels, comes with a price tag. He's not a holding midfield player. He's more further forward. He's only 21, 22. He's got years to progress. Paulo Bernardo, a little bit more experience, more a European type holding midfield player. Does he have the aggression for Scottish football? I don't think so. I don't think that he has the vision that the likes of Scott Brown had, and we need to get that back. Rio Hatate, for me, this is the last season we see Rio Hatate. Even the early part of this season, the inconsistencies in Rio's game is there all the time. And this is why we've never had, and other teams and other coaches will see the inconsistencies in Rio's game. And that's why there's not been a big bid come in for Rio. If Rio played 110% for 90 minutes, if he played like Matt O'Reilly, you would have had a massive bid coming in for Rio. But he doesn't. And that's the truth of the matter. James Forrest coming to the end of his career. If Brendan Rodgers leaves at the end of this season, James Forrest leaves at the end of the season, Callum McGregor goes into the last year of his contract, the next manager that's coming into Celtic needs to know Celtic. And my fear is that Celtic go down the road of many other clubs and bring in managers that don't get the club. Do you know? And we've never went through such a massive change in a long time. There's no natural progression of players that you can see having the longevity that players that were at the club for the run to 9 in a row. If you look how many players were there for 7-8 years, I mean, you could say, well, Rio's been here for 4 years already. This is his 5th year. If you look at Dias Maeda, he's the same. I mean, you could say that Luke McCowan, he's going to be here for years. But Luke McCowan comes into the category for me for a Peter Grant type player. Do you know, has all the desire, has all the push, has some great moments in the game, but he's not that top level midfielder that we need. And I just think that Celtic need to go into the market and get a young, upcoming, really hungry, but at the same time, we need a bit of older quality. And that's what's really missing. I mean, the fact that Callum's the older statesman in the midfield tells you that the quality isn't there. You know, it is a young squad that we have when you look at it. And I think that Celtic, I think we could get to the end of the season and Brendan Rodgers could maybe sign for 1 more year. Bruni next coach without a doubt? Nope. Hugh, he won't be. Bruni won't be the next coach of Celtic. Not a chance. Not a chance. I cannot see it. I think Scott will go down the path of other routes, and I don't think that it's his overall burning desire to become Celtic manager, because he knows the pressures that come with it, and he knows, does Scott Brown come back and ruin his? It's like Paul Lambert didn't want to come. He never wanted to be Celtic manager. He's come out and said, I never want to be Celtic manager. Because sometimes you can take away as a player. You can take away the reputation. It would be like bringing Henrik Larsson back. And if Henrik Larsson didn't win and wasn't a success, you then take away from the Henrik Larsson as a player and everything that you've got about Henrik Larsson as a player. Sometimes, you know, Chilwell says Bruni's miles away from being a Celtic manager, but you've got to remember that Neil Lennon didn't have any experience. Do you know? So there's two sides to the coin. Neil Lennon didn't have any experience, but he turned out to be a fantastic manager for Celtic. No previous management experience, but he done well. Anyway, predicted 11 for the game today. Yeah, Big Days, I think that as well. I think that you'll see, because of the position that the squad is in, I think that you'll see Brendan Rodgers maybe get a 1 year extension. And then because the squad is going to go through unbelievable change, and we'll be looking at a Celtic that us as modern fans are thinking, you know, where's this? A lot of it as well, and I'm going to say this, what the next manager will have to face has been due to the negligence of Brendan Rodgers and Ange Postecoglou. Ange Postecoglou and Brendan Rodgers have put immense pressure on the next manager at Celtic because of their inability to bring through young players at Celtic, to bring through that conveyor belt of players, to give you that continuation of Celtic players. You know, people that get the club. Although we've got Donovan coming through, we've got Dane Murray coming through. Maybe they will come to fruition in a few years' time when the next manager is in. Neil Lennon was a bottle manager when it comes to pressure. He only won the league when that one went bust. Neil Lennon had the bottle for Celtic manager. to opposing views. Yeah, United aren't playing well just now, so the chance of Brownie getting Celtic, there's no chance of getting Celtic, Brownie getting. Monty says he's going with Donovan, Murray, Scales, Scarachi, Engels, Bernardo, McCowan, Tenecte, Iniacho and Balwishka. Is Balwishka not injured? Is he not carrying a slight injury, so Brendan Rodgers isn't going to risk him? They were impressed by his coaching the first time round, the lack of management experience. If Wilson does nothing today, out in January. Monty's giving him no time at all, is he? Giving him no time at all. Another year of 4-4-3. What manager out there? I mean, hopefully we'll get a manager that comes in. And I mean, Brendan Rodgers, when he came into Celtic, Joe Hart is on record saying that Brendan Rodgers didn't change anything until January. It was the same training, and this goes down to the backroom staff. You know, because you've got this continuation of the backroom staff still there. Joe Hart was thinking, when's Brendan going to Brendanise the team? You know, when is he going to put his own stamp on the team? And then he kind of done it in the January, and then he changed focus and everything, and it was like, right, and we had a really good run-in. We had a fantastic run-in to the end of that league season. You know, we steamrolled to the end of the season. Last year, you were looking for that little bit of spirit, that upping of the level, upping of the fitness levels that Brendan Rodgers talks about, hitting peak fitness towards the end of the season. And it seemed that we didn't get that. And my concern for this season is that something wasn't right. And this is why I think that the board, the next window, will back Brendan Rodgers, and then you might find that Brendan Rodgers gets 1 year of another added contract purely for the state of the squad. But then you never know. Brendan Rodgers might say, and the PLC might say, look, I think that we'll just part ways. But I hope that Celtic act quick, because the last time that we knew that we needed a manager in, we went about fucking 5 months trying to get Eddie Howe in, and that was a disaster. And that's why this board don't give me a big confidence boost that they can attract a manager quick enough. You know, if this is to be Brendan Rodgers' last season, they cannot leave it. They cannot leave it until the end of the season. But anyway, that's fucking talk for a long time off. It is all about the Premier Sports Cup today. Celtic head along the motorway to Partick Thistle. Fantastic ground. Big support there today. It is on Premier Sports 1. Coverage starting at 3 p.m. Kick-off at 3:30. My team predicted is Sinisalo, Donovan, Carter, Vickers, Scales, Scarachi, Engels, McGregor, McGowan, Forrest, Iniacho up front, and Tenecte, because Brendan Rodgers will try to rest as many players as he can before we get on that flight on Tuesday and head into the first game in the Europa. A game that would need to take something out, even if it's a draw. Do you know, even if it's a draw away from home, that'll be a fantastic result. But that's for another video. So I will see you around about an hour and a half before the game today, when we get the team news live. On that note, have a fantastic morning, Celtic fans, wherever you are, all around the world.